Now, I am by no means a big YouTuber, so this video is not coming from a YouTuber point of view, it's coming from a psychology point of view. One thing I do know when it comes to YouTube is that a human emotional connection is really key. A human emotional connection is what allows us as business owners to connect with our potential customers or clients in a way that allows them to get to know, like, and trust us. And the biggest part of that communication is nonverbal. I've heard people say it's between 70 and 90% can be nonverbal. Now, what I also know is that most people don't realize that their nonverbal communication is actually breaking and not forming that human connection. And that's what I want to share with you in this video today, so that you can avoid making those mistakes and potentially breaking that ability to create that human emotional connection with your potential customers. Now, if this is your first time here, I am Doreca Delbridge, but most people here know me as msdorylinda, and I am an occupational psychologist. Other people know that as organizational psychology, and I am from dorelinda.com. Now, today's video is sponsored by BigView, and I'll share about them a little bit later on. Now, today's video is a continuation of the series that we've been covering on content marketing and video marketing. Now, my hope is that you can learn one thing today that you can implement in your own business and connect better with your potential customers. So what is this one big mistake that I speak of? When I do this and I am continuing to speak with you, what is coming to mind right now? And tell me down below if you have noticed people do what I'm just doing now. What am I doing? Chances are I am gazing to the side to look at myself on the screen as I am talking to you. But what I am doing is, or maybe I'm doing this and I am making sure I'm checking myself on the screen because I'm using a DSLR and I have a little screen on the side that I can take a look at myself. Most of the time this happens more naturally than not when people are recording using their phones, because with a phone it's really easy to look at yourself on the screen versus actually looking at the camera that is recording you. Now, why is this a big deal? You may be like, what's the big deal? How is this relevant when it comes to a human emotional connection? Naturally, adults make about 30 to 60% eye contact when they're communicating with other people. But for a human emotional connection to take place, we need to be paying attention or creating eye contact about 60 to 70% of the time. Too much of it, and we may come across as dishonest, because people usually can tell when somebody is really freakingly paying attention to them a little bit too much. It can feel a little bit off-putting. So if somebody is always just looking and not breaking their gaze, that can feel uncomfortable. And a little bit too little, and you would think like the person is being dishonest because they're looking somewhere else. So when people are not really looking straight in the camera to connect with their audience, what happens, it ends up creating that disconnect, and people end up feeling like they can't trust them or they can't really form that emotional connection that happens when you create an eye contact. So I saw the other day, and I'm just going to be looking at my notes right here, that University of Wolverhampton, this is in England, and the University of Stirling did a research and found that not only is eye contact really important to creating an emotional connection, it also really increases retention. So if you think of this idea of communicating and connecting with people online, we want people to remember most of what it is that we say. So the more we can create that eye contact with them, the more they can retain and remember what it is they actually heard us say. So creating an eye contact is more than just good manners, because when you're speaking to somebody, you don't want them to be doing this, right? They don't know where they're looking. You want them to be paying attention to you. And it's more than just good manners, because when they're able to pay attention to you, you are able to create that connection. And as we have just learned, they're able to also retain more of what it is that we say. So how are business owners creating this disconnect without even realizing? Well, most of the time it can really come from what I've noticed anyway, is that the attempt of being really concise and even maybe eliminating rambling by scripting. That is one of the reasons I have seen people fall into this pitfall, is because they're scripting everything they're about to say because they want to make sure that they are short to the point. But what they're doing is, unless you have really developed a skill of being able to read something as without losing that gaze, when you're using a teleprompter and the words are going, that you are able to let your eyes not do this like the whole time, right? Some people don't move their head. I was exaggerating there a little bit, but their eyesight is just going like this because they're reading the thing. They're not able to really pay attention. And for some that I've noticed, when they're able to pay attention, is that their attention is a little too intense because they're trying to make sure that they're paying attention to every word they have written. And sometimes what happens when people script everything they're about to say is that they're using a tone that they would use in writing that may not be natural to how they would sound as they're talking. Because when our writing, at least for me, I know my writing sounds very different to when I am speaking, like when I'm speaking to you right now. And if you read something I'm writing, I always sound a little bit more formal when I'm writing because I can edit stuff out versus when I am just talking like this. Let me know if you can relate with that down below. So what can you do if you are finding yourself making that mistake of you've scripted your thing, or somehow you are struggling to pay attention to your audience in a way of like creating an eye contact and connection? So number one is decide where you're focusing. So for me, because I'm using a DSLR, my screen is a little bit further out and it's a little bit easier maybe not to focus on that, right? And my camera is always set to like one focus. I'm a little bit anal with that. Like once the moment I have set it how I want it, I don't like to change the settings because I don't want to always be worried I'm out of focus, whatnot, right? So decide where it is that you're focusing when you're looking. So I never feel the need to look at my camera to say, am I in focus? Am I out of focus? Are the settings correct? I'm avoiding that by always having it set in one way. Another thing to keep in mind if you're using your phone is, like back of your phone these days, sometimes you can have like 3 different cameras, the near side, the one the farther on, the one that's normal. Oh, maybe that's not it. The wider angle. Anyway, I don't know. 3 different cameras. I've seen that all over the place. And I believe actually mine almost has like several. Like, do you see? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, see? Like however many there are. If you are recording and you're using your back-facing camera, you want to distinguish which of the camera you're actually really looking at, which is the little window round thing that is actually recording you. Because then you can look straight into that one eye so that you can create that emotional connection. And if you're using your front facing, so instead of having it right in front of your face, move it a little bit more to the side so that you're able to look straight into that camera versus looking at the screen. I hope I'm making sense. And that can help you not to have the temptation to look at yourself versus looking at straight into your front facing camera. A tip number 2 that you could try is to record your whole video in one take versus playing and stopping, recording and stopping, and checking to see did you do one take correctly. Because what happens is each and every time you come and sit back and gather yourself, you will find that you are still looking at the screen to make sure you've sat back where you want to be and so forth. And it can be really easy to continue looking at yourself versus looking at the camera. So do in one take and then edit out the part that you don't want, the imperfect parts. I find that easier. But if you have a better way you're doing that, share with us down below because it's always helpful to see what different people find most helpful. Let's say you're using a teleprompter. My tip number 3 is to try and put bullet points versus scripting the whole thing, because that will help you not to have your gaze being too intense because you're trying to read, and it will also have your tone of voice and so forth be more natural to how you would normally speak versus reading something that you've written in a written tone. And let me know if you can understand that. I know I write very formally, so when I'm writing, something sounds very different to when I'm speaking as I'm doing right now. Now, let's say you actually just want to use your phone and you want to use your front-facing camera. There is a way that you can have your script or your bullet point script actually show up on your screen as you're recording. And this is made possible by using an app called BigView, which happens to be our today's sponsor. Now, BigView is growing and has more than 2.5 million users across 70 countries. And it's a really cool app. It allows you to create videos professional looking videos really quickly on the go. It's almost like having a studio in your back pocket. In one app, you're able to have a teleprompter, and you know I'm a big fan of don't script the whole thing, just have your bullet points. You are able to have automatically generated captions, which is really cool. Sometimes I used to have to do that in a separate app whenever I have created a short video, but with BigView, you don't have to do that. It allows you to add your branding. You're able to add motion titling, which is really cool, especially if you're creating lots of video, different social media platforms. And if you're creating on YouTube, then you can use that to create your intros and outros, which is pretty cool. Now, the feature that is my favorite by far, and I know all the other stuff, I'm like, it's great, but the part that I geek out on is the ability to create a video that is interactive. Have that embedded in your channel where people can vote or answer questions within the video. I think that's pretty neat. Now, let's say I was going to ask you a question right now. Do you prefer full scripting or bullet points? Let me know below. It will not be in like the chat. It will be right in the video. You can vote A or B. And I think that's pretty neat because it allows your users, your viewers, it allows your audience to interact with your content a little bit more intimately, and allows you to just know what your audience are thinking, right? It's a great way to form a little bit of a deeper connection with your audience. Now, if you think all that sounds really neat, you are welcome to check them out. I will put the link down below, and that link actually gives you $40 off any plan you want, okay? So go ahead and grab it before that offer ends. I don't know when it will end, but I just know it's too good to be true. Now, why am I sharing with you all this? The thing is, we're a community here. And whenever I see people make a mistake that I'm thinking, oh, that is more costly than just inexperience. Because, you know, sometimes we can have a list of things that we want to improve with videos. And one thing that, you know, people always say, what's the first thing you want to improve your video with? People will say, well, you want to definitely do your audio first, right? Or your lighting or whatever. And for me, I'm thinking if you're trying to connect with your audience, definitely prioritize this one thing, because you don't want to alienate your audience by accident. And they probably would not know why they're being put off by something, right? But there will definitely be a disconnect for them and a frustration on your part when you are attempting to create content so that you can make that connection with them. Now, I, as a psychologist, am a big advocate for a human emotional connection. Talking of which, I want you to check out a video I'll be putting right here that I will share other common pitfalls that I see business owners make when it comes to engaging their audience, and I hope that can help you as you're connecting with your potential clients as well. And as we all say on this channel, focus on your being than doing, and I will see you in the next one.